Oddities! Welcome back to another episode of Midnight Curiosities. I'm Curator Raquel.
And I'm Curator Warbeauty.
Coming at you live from the North Pole.
We are in the North Pole, aren't we?
Yeah. Are you cold?
It is. Fun fact, I'm actually from the desert.
So not the North Pole.
So I hate it here. This is the other kind of desert.
This is your worst case scenario?
The snow desert.
Ew.
See, it doesn't even sound fun. Everyone's like,
It doesn't.
I want to go to the North Pole. I want to see, St. Nicholas, the holy man.
Oh, yes. Who is a saint?
Who is definitely a saint. But for me, that is
Did
just...
you say the holy man?
I did. I said the holy man.
Okay. Okay.
As worst case scenario either way. I don't want to see holy men. I don't want to be in the snow. I don't want to see holy men in the snow.
Okay.
Don't know what to do with that, do you?
We have another correction to make.
We do.
I'm so sorry that this is becoming our introduction every week.
So, last week on Midnight Curiosities...
Math is hard.
Okay, listen, I need you guys to know. They put two numerically challenged individuals in charge of accurately retelling you numerals.
Yeah, and it wasn't a good idea to start with, and it's definitely not a good idea now.
And we're still going to do it, though.
We are. So, for those of you who have been misinformed, I am so sorry to tell you that you were not on episode 5 last week, but episode 4, because I can't count to 5. You are now on episode 5. You have arrived at episode 5.
I need you guys to know, so I have this problem called dyscalculia. And it's like the dyslexia of math.
It is.
So she said episode 5, and I just wholeheartedly believed it. I was with it, because I was like, yes, numbers. And it's the worst.
Yeah, I apologize for that. But we made another math mistake last episode.
There's going to be a theme, make it a drinking game with your friends.
Come here for your metaphysical wisdom and insight. Do not come here for mathematical accuracy.
That's going to be our disclaimer tagline. Not mathematical accurate.
So, Jesus.
So, anyways, it turns out I may have graduated seminary once. In my defense, I graduated seminary, over a decade ago.
I'm just saying.
And I haven't been Christian for a lot of that decade. Neither of us are Christians
anymore, so some of the information has been lost.
So I got the whole story right, with the exception of the math part of the story. So apparently it was 5 loaves of bread.
Okay, what a show off.
Right?
And how many fish? Still 2?
2.
Did we get that part right?
Yeah, it was 2 fish, 5 loaves of bread.
And it was not 200 people.
It was 5,000.
It was 5,000 people. Apparently the Bible does say.
Yes, well... Anyways, you can expect our new series, Slightly Incorrect Bible Stories for Bros with Warbeauty. You can expect that soon on Spotify.
You gonna drop your new mixtape on them?
Drop my dope mixtape. And, if you guys like Slightly Incorrect Bible Stories, you're gonna love... Quran conundrums.
Oh no.
Just my slightly incorrect retellings from Islam.
Good. Oh, I love it. So, this week, we're going to be talking about ritual in temples.
Yes.
So this is episode 5, I promise. Episode 5 of our mini-series.
We have verified.
We have very much been verified. The other curators are fact-checking us at every corner.
Right? It's like we put an episode out, and then the other 2 curators just come in with their facts.
I know. We should really send it to them before we publish it.
And the math, accuracy.
But we're not going to do that. No. So we are being fact-checked, and it is, I have been told, episode 5 of the miniseries. And that's ritual in temples.
Right. So, that's kind of sexy.
Is it?
Yeah, ritual in temples. This is going to be less I guess, factual, interesting.
We're just making stuff up at this point.
Yeah, I actually don't know anything about this. No. I think this is going to be less fact interesting and more just general interesting.
Okay.
Because, really, what is that? What does that mean? So what is a ritual and what is a temple? I think that's the first 2 important...
Excellent starting points.
...points to define. So ritual, in this case, is going to be your religious ceremony that you do, or like whatever repetitive religious doodad that you're into.
Yeah, sure. Any sort of repetitive routine that you follow in a religious format, that's your ritual.
Right. So we're talking about those things that go on inside of spaces called temples. Now, temples, you see that word used when it comes to the Mormon Church, when it comes to the Judaism, when it comes to the Dharmic religions. So,
and a lot of Asian religions.
Yeah, most Eastern religions have this concept of temple. Pagans have concepts of temples.
I would argue that I would say by definition of what occurs inside the building, I think that Catholicism, cathedrals
would be temples. I would agree with that,
based
actually.
on just kind of the formal ceremonial rituals that they perform there.
Absolutely. I actually totally agree with that, but they just don't call them temples.
Right, because that's associated with paganism.
Right? It's lit.
And they don't like that.
Well, considering that all of their churches were built on top of pagan temple sites. Cough, cough. But
there's a deeper definition to temple.
So, yeah, there is. So a temple is not just anywhere. And this is why your house isn't a temple.
And your local Presbyterian church is not a temple.
It's not a temple. It is a temple is a space that is consecrated and sanctified.
Okay.
And it is specifically and only used for religious and magical ceremonial purposes.
Okay.
So there is other things that can go on there, but in order to be classified as a temple, it is pretty much expressly for religious ritual activity.
Sure.
And it is formally consecrated and formally sanctified and hallowed ground. And the ground that itself that the temple is built on is considered sacred and holy and magically sound.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, I guess what I want to know is, like, why is ritual, because you think about, like, what a ritual is in a temple, and it's any sort of ceremony or practice, like...
Right.
So what makes that so taboo? Why are we discussing that?
Well, I think people don't know what goes on inside of them, and I sort of want to peel the veil back a little bit for people to understand, because I think so many conspiracies get built off of what happens inside of temples or in holy spaces.
Okay, so we're debunking it.
Yeah, we're kind of debunking a little without, of course, so there is a line that we have to walk here because... You know, at what point can I tell you exactly what the ceremony is without sort of dishonoring that tradition?
Sure.
So I'm not going to get too deep in, because I actually know a lot of the ceremonies.
For the Mormon Church.
Well, no, for quite a few, actually.
Oh, yeah, well, that makes sense.
But there is a really strong-held belief by anyone that has a temple. It's not that it's kind of like a secret club.
Okay.
And it's the fear of missing out. You know, people are like, oh, what do they have in there that I don't get to see and do?
Right.
Right. So people get jealous and then they just get curious because humans are curious creatures. But really what goes on in these super sacred spaces is it's really mundane, you guys. It's really not that exciting.
Right. I think that for a certain portion of the imagination effect, the blame does go to Hollywood. They've created a lot of imagery, I guess you would say, about what actually happens inside of a temple that they're hiding from you. They've created this like mindset of secrecy,
right,
that doesn't necessarily exist,
right.
And I think that, I mean, like you said, people are curious. But if you think about it, like, I'm not trying to go full psychology on you, but people do have a habit of kind of letting their imaginations run wild and kind of making up their own truth for what they don't understand.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna blame people like Aleister Crowley for a second.
Blame him, drag him.
we drag Aleister Crowley on this show. So you have these really intoxicating, fascinating pagan figures like Aleister Crowley that are very much using the linguistics of religion, of occultism, which is very, very old. So things like temples is not a pagan concept. That is just an old religious...
It's a human concept.
It's just a human
We've been building
concept.
temples for as long as we've been standing.
Pretty much. And so you have these really sexy modern figures like Aleister Crowley who would promote the wildest things, like, the sex and all of the partying and like drugs. And that's kind of what got fed into the media. So now you have people who have religions that have practiced in temples for millennia, and they have this stigma attached to them. So, take Judaism, for example. They go to temples to worship.
Of course.
And I'm sure most people who are Jews would tell you they find enjoyment in it and they think it is exciting. But if you take out your love of God from that context, I mean, you're really just doing the Holy Hokey Pokey.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you put your left foot in.
No.
They're putting their left foot out.
Why are you so full of cursed content?
Well, that's what it is. So, like, you do the hokey pokey, and as you're turning yourself about...
Hokey pokey, confirmed holy ritual.
But what happens at the end of this hokey pokey? You're not summoning some Cthulhu Satan demon.
That would be one heck of a party trick.
And if you are, let us know.
Let us know immediately.
Please contact us. You can find us anywhere on social media. Midnight Curiosities, War Beauty, and One Eye Oddities. Any of those will work. But, I think that because of media and sensationalism, people think that, you're doing this crazy...
Sure. I think that...
wiggle summoning.
I again, to play psychologist here, I think that the fear of the unknown has a big effect of kind of compounding upon itself. So when you don't understand something and then you have these other effects, and when you have these fears and then you have other sources in your life saying that, you should be afraid of this, or like you said with Aleister Crowley, say, you have an influence saying that this is where sex or drugs happen, and then you were raised in a place where that's scary and it's dangerous. And then that fear compounds upon itself because you don't know what's going on and you don't understand it. And we are, as people, we are inherently afraid of what we don't understand.
Right. So now you hear somebody, take the Mormons, for example, in Western culture. You hear them and they say, I went to the temple. And now instantly you're like, oh, well, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I know what goes on there.
I don't think that temples have that glamorous of a reputation, though.
Okay, so minus the rock and roll. But the sex and the drugs, definitely.
Do they?
Okay.
I'm thinking more like people imagine a temple and they're imagining you're summoning demons. You have giant pentagrams on the floor.
Written in blood. That's pretty rock and roll. Like, that's kind of glamorous. And for the record, as someone who grew up Mormon, if that was what was happening, I would not be pagan right now. Let me just make this clear.
Right. It'd be super cool.
I would be converting everyone I knew to Mormonism. I'd be like, hey, I know that the rules kind of look like they suck, but trust me, worth it. I promise. It's totally worth your time. You know what I got? Okay. So I'm going to tell you guys about one particular ritual to just highlight how mundane and uneventful
and unsexy
these rituals are. I'm actually going to tell you about a fairly surface ritual inside the Mormon temples.
Okay. I'm excited. Tell me.
So there are several layers to temples. And typically, and you can go back to Jerusalem, to the Temple of David. And that temple had 7 layers to it. And every layer of the temple, it was like its own city complex, basically, was a different layer people were allowed to go in. So you had merchants in layers, you had normal people, normal worship, and as you went further and further inside, in the walls, you got to the 7th layer, which was the Holy of Holies, which was the Ark of the Covenant, allegedly. And that is only a certain priests or certain members of the clergy could go into that layer. So that wasn't for everybody. Well, that mentality has since still carried over, and it applies to not just Christianity. I mean, you see this in Eastern Eastern practice and
Sure,
thought as
you
well.
see it pretty much everywhere.
Everywhere, is that temples are layered based off of your clearance level.
Yeah, they're essentially they're gated,
Yes.
and your clearance level could depend on your age, your competency, your level of religious study,
Right.
Things like that will determine whether you are prepared or if you are at such a religious state that you can enter the next level.
Right. And this isn't because they're trying to keep things from you. This is just because you just either you're not the right person for this job or you're just not ready to be entrusted with that level.
About it, they have a sacred space that they have very carefully curated.
Right.
And they're not going to let just anybody into that space because it is sacred to them.
Right.
And so the layers only exist for protection of that space.
Exactly. So one of the more surface layers of the Mormon temple is what's called baptisms for the dead.
Sounds lit.
Okay.
I'm in.
That's what it's called. And when this first was a concept...
Okay, I'm understanding now because if you said that is what it's called and this is a surface level thing, then perhaps the reason that people come up with all these crazy, sexy ideas is because they're naming them cool things like that.
Okay, well...
Because they want to feel better about themselves.
Well, what's really cool, too, is if you actually go back and look at old-timey newspapers, when Mormons were settling the West and they had this baptisms for the dead idea, there are literal newspapers that, like, depict Mormons throwing bodies out of a graveyard into a cart. Yeet! to go and be baptized.
So are you trying to tell me that's not what they're doing?
No, that's, in fact, not what they're doing.
So what are they doing?
Okay,
Why did they name it this?
Because it is essentially, you go in, and I've done this before, so you go in, and you are baptized. You are like the mortal vessel flesh proxy.
Okay.
For a dead person. So,
weird.
let's say that curator Raquel had passed away.
Thank God. Finally.
Problem solved. But let's say curator Raquel passed away, and her name...
some whack Mormons wanted to baptize my pagan soul.
Yes, in order for you to not be eternally damned. Even though Mormons don't really believe in that.
How dare they? The audacity of this church.
Okay, listen, there's a whole bunch of layers to that. That's not what this is about, but...
They don't know me.
Okay, well, they don't. But your name comes up on a list of people who have not been baptized in the Mormon church. And I stand in as a human vessel.
You would do that to me?
No, I wouldn't. No, but this is what the ceremony is. Hold on. Basically, there's this big baptismal font. And every temple's baptismal font looks different. But it's just this big, giant holy water tub. Huge. It's a big holy water tub.
Sounds fun.
You wear this up to your neck, long sleeve, long pant, white smock.
Okay. Are we unsexy yet?
Right. You go in there. There is a priest who is qualified to baptize in the church, baptizes you and your mortal body.
And another one. And another one.
On behalf of this dead person. So you are literally just a mortal flesh vessel for this dead person's essence.
I hate that.
To be baptized repeatedly, like 15, 20 times.
That's so funny.
In a row. They just dunk you in this water. They read the baptismal prayer.
I just imagine
they dunk you in the water.
Like, holding you from your feet and just like...
It's close. No, they're in the water with you, and you're in the water, and they hold...
Sure, I've been baptized before.
Right, and then they, they dunk you, and they have to make sure all the things get under the water. And
you tuck a black bath bomb in under your armpit or something, so when they dunk you, the whole thing fills with black.
This is why Curator Raquel was never Mormon, you guys.
This is why I got kicked out of the Christian church.
This is why. But yeah, so basically all it is, though, I mean...
Get that image in your head.
Ethics and philosophy aside, it is essentially just somebody dunking another human in water 15 times in a row.
And that is a holy ritual?
That is a sacred ritual to Mormons in their temple. And that's a surface level one.
And that is something that I, as someone who is not a Mormon and has never been a Mormon, I do not understand. And frankly, I'm a little afraid.
And now that you know that it's called Baptisms for the Dead, and we're just
it was cool.
snatching names out of the air.
That's so weird. Like, okay, never mind. There are just so many, like, what if you die and you go to your afterlife and then you get snatched by the Mormons to their afterlife?
Well, the good news is Mormons don't believe in hell. So you're not screwed. That's the good news.
You're screwed if you go from Valhalla to a bunch of Christians. To a bunch of a Mormon afterlife.
Is all paradise.
Not what I wanted, though.
But it's all paradise.
It'd be so awkward. You don't know anybody.
Yeah, right? You have to wear a name tag for like the first 5 centuries.
You have to be like, oh, yes, I was... Did you say Mormon?
But yeah, so it's
a long con.
Right. But that is a sacred ritual.
Okay. So, I think that the reason that ritual is considered taboo, it's interesting, right? Because it's not considered taboo from the religion itself, or from any religion. Like, I don't think that, a religion looks at another religion and says, like, oh, they have ritual, that's so spooky and scary.
No.
I think it's the layman. I think it's the everyday man who doesn't understand, and their heads get filled with all these ideas.
But here's why this is wild to me. Is because this stems from, obviously, the Christianization of the world.
Sure.
When they were stomping out the pagans and all the nonsense. Right? Well, pagans conducted rituals in their temples. And what is a pagan ritual but somebody holding a fancy knife in the air, clanging around a metal bowl, screaming, earth, wind, fire, heart power,
I always miss the heart power. Maybe it's the knife that scares them.
Well, there's a number of things, obviously, that are going to scare people, but obviously...
Maybe it's the heart power.
It was probably the heart power, let's be honest. I also get scared of Captain Planet.
I mean, put yourself in that situation, though. You are someone who has never experienced a ritual before, and all of a sudden you see someone waving a knife around, talking to the air, and they're saying that this is holy to them. They're saying that this is they see God, and that's got to be terrifying.
Okay, but here's my point though. Why is that terrifying? So I'm a Christian, right? And I'm because what were Christians but late Jews? that's a hot take.
Amazing.
Because Jews 2.0.
Iconic.
Well, you already know that because Judaism has temples and has rituals, so this is not something that is foreign to the culture. But what happened is they somehow convinced people that the pagans were doing wild stuff in temples, and they made it taboo, despite the fact that they then turned around and built their temples on top of that, absorbed their rituals, and said, but this isn't that.
But they, twisted it, right? They said that, pagans are, say, sacrificing animals.
Sure.
And then they taught the Christians that, that's something that we do not agree with. As the Christian church, we are against this, and therefore, you should be afraid of this. It's not very carefully curated.
Well, I understand, and I get that. And for me, I'm just like, okay, then I would be afraid of people I saw sacrificing animals. Sure. But why is the concept that the rituals go on in a temple so terrifying? Because I'm still doing my own rituals. I mean, I'm drinking the blood and body of a dude.
Yes, you are.
Low key. Yes, you are. That's exactly what you're doing. It's magic. It's a ritual. Mm-hmm.
Why are you whispering that like it's some dirty secret? Rituals are magic, even when they're done in the Christian church.
Exactly.
That's not a hot take.
That's just a take.
Or maybe is it?
I think in today it's a hot take.
Oh. My bad.
My B.
JK.
Hashtag cancel Midnight Curiosities.
You want to be canceled so bad.
No, someone send me hate mail.
No.
Or send me love mail.
I'm
not getting any.
I'm going to send you anonymous hate mail.
Thank you. I'm not getting any mail, and I just want someone to send me mail. And it's easier to tell someone that you wish they were dead than it is to tell them that you love their content and hey, you're doing really great and I love it. People don't like to say that stuff. People would rather tell you that they think you're a jerk and they wish you would jump off a cliff. And if that's how you feel, tell me, message me. I'm available on all forms of social media.
Are you lonely? Are you okay?
I want to know you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, to bring it back to ritual.
Well, no, okay. Well, to bring it back to ritual, it is like we said, we're debunking what's going on. So I guess I just want viewers and listeners to take away that, you know, you go into this sacred space of a culture and a mindset that is not yours. And of course you're not going to understand what goes on. You're not going to understand that they strap, green flags to their body. And
Now, what religion is this?
no, it's not. It's just like a.
Okay.
I'm trying not to actually say the actual ritual, so I'm just kind of like tangentially.
I'll have an example because you gave a Mormon example. So I was fortunate enough to visit a Buddhist temple.
Right.
When I visited Japan, and let me be very clear for one moment. Part of the reason that temples are layered is to keep the space sacred. And part of it is because other people do not respect the space the same way that you do.
Well, yeah.
Especially tourists. And
Yeah.
even further, especially Americans.
Oof, yeah. Big mood.
And I think that Americans are just not raised with a reverence for a sacred space.
Yeah, it's not part of the culture in America.
It's
no.
really not. And you can say that there's a church on every street corner, because there is, but those are not sacred spaces.
Nope.
And while they're typically supposed to be revered as, a respect for the place, oftentimes they're not. Especially by younger people. And so I think that when you take someone who was raised in a culture of you don't have respect for a sacred place and then put them in a sacred space, they're not going to behave accordingly. So going back to this Buddhist temple that I was in, gorgeous, by the way, they allowed us to visit the area, but there were parts of it that were kept away because we are not monks. And you have to think there are monks that live there. Like this is their whole life. And would you want someone coming into your home and your religious, like, sanctified space who, one, don't understand your religion and don't understand your sanctity of this space? Like, I don't think that you would want them there. And to further debunk it, I personally was allowed into their innermost sanctuary, and they're not hiding anything. They have their special treasures there. They have they had a standing Buddha statue, one of like only a few in Japan, and just more like holy relics that they kept very sacred and put a lot of like sentiment into. They just kept those away from the general public because they meant more to them and they don't want them damaged or stolen.
Can I make a confession?
Okay.
Okay. I hate traveling to other places.
With people?
Okay, with people. I don't really like people. That's TM.
Sure.
But, I hate traveling to other places with people who are not religious. Not spiritual. Not religious, specifically.
Yeah.
Because religious and spiritual people, like genuinely, truly, not like the I'm religious, because honestly, I don't think a lot of Protestants are any of those things.
Okay, hot takes, but okay.
But that's, that's
Well, I
just...
wasn't prepared for you to come for Protestants like that, but okay.
But no, I hate traveling to those places with people who do not have that respect, because I'm someone who in those spaces, even in the most general public...
You mentioned this when you said you visited Notre Dame.
Yeah. When I'm in even the most general public area that everybody's allowed to, they know that the noise is going to be there. To me, it's so irritating and it's so grinding to have other people's energies that just don't get it, and they don't shut up. They're not quiet. And I'm like, guys,
where's the respect?
There's no respect. This is a holy, sanctified space. You're standing on holy ground. Please treat it like that. Don't throw your trash everywhere. don't take pictures of everything, you know?
See, I haven't really experienced, like, people throwing trash on sacred spaces.
Oh, I've seen it. It's the worst.
I haven't seen that, but I have seen people, you know, talking loudly. I've seen people taking pictures of things that those aren't yours to take pictures of.
Please stop taking pictures of people praying their hearts and souls out.
Right. Okay, right.
That's not cool. That's, like,
first of all,
violating.
Rule number 1 is don't take a picture of another person ever.
Right. Without their expressed permission. I mean,
right.
but
Don't
even,
just
like,
take pictures of people. That's weird.
even, like, the priests and the monks and people that tend the temples, I hate taking pictures of them.
Even if they're performing a ceremony.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it. It's not for you to take home. It's for you to experience in that moment, and you can take that experience with you.
Right.
A photo doesn't do it for anybody.
No, and it's just rude, and it's
disrespectful, and it
it's
taints
such
the experience for everyone else.
a violation of sanctity for people who are just genuinely there in worship and in service to whatever God is worshipped there. And I think people just have this, like, such this other mentality. But that's why I hate traveling with people to places like that, because I can never be guaranteed that they're gonna act right. And I know I can act right. And I'll even take off my own pagan jewelry going into another god's house. You know, we said in the holy places or sacred spaces
episode,
I was talking about that. But this comes down to
respect.
And it also comes down to the mindset. And that's why rituals in temple is a taboo topic, is because we don't have a culture of respect.
And it's I think that is part of the reason that some of these things are so secret, because the general public cannot be trusted to keep them sacred.
Right. Or respect the fact that they are sacred. Like, you know, it's not for you.
It's not for you.
Although, you know what I wish was for me? The Ark of the Covenant, which is allegedly in Ethiopia.
I thought you were going to say the Jewish Hokey Pokey.
Might as well be. Ark of the Covenant, Jewish Hokey Pokey. They're all the same thing to me at this point.
They're all things you can't have.
They're all things I can't have. I'll tell you, though, you know, obviously, if I was given an opportunity to go to the temple, or the little temple area in Ethiopia, where, by the way, there was a massacre, because currently there are parties attempting to get into this place to take the Ark of the Covenant that they allegedly have.
And they said holy wars were done.
Right? But if I were given an opportunity to go and to be in this place, in this temple, I'll be honest with you, as sexy of an idea as it is for me to be like, oh, I get a chance to see the Ark of the Covenant.
Not your religion.
It's not for me. And honestly, I'm someone who, even though it would kill me to turn that opportunity down for the rest of my life, I would have to do that because honor would dictate that this is not your holy of holies. There are rules surrounding the Ark of the Covenant. There are rules that are established in the Bible surrounding the Ark of the Covenant, and you do not qualify, to see the Ark of the Covenant. And I would be sad. However, if someone were to be like, listen, if like the Pope went down there and he was like, it's real, I would believe him.
Okay.
I need that.
You just want it to be real so bad.
I do so bad.
Okay.
I just want to know what kind of rituals they do with it. I just want to watch.
It's not for you.
It's not for me, but I just want to know.
But that's okay. I think a curiosity is healthy. A fear is not.
Right. You know, I obviously don't believe that they are cutting the throats of servants and slaves to feed the Ark and keep everyone eternally youthful. And if that is what they're doing,
so dope.
Instant conversion. I literally am a believer.
I'm sorry, Freya. I love you, but I gotta go.
I have to go. This is calling to me. Okay, so do you want to hear... Okay, have you ever heard any... Okay, you didn't grow up in a religion that had temples.
I did not. I grew up Southern Baptist.
So growing up Mormon, I heard the craziest rumors about what went on in the temples. Keep in mind, I've been inside of them and done rituals and ceremonies.
Okay.
I know what goes on in temples. It's not exciting. In fact, it's snooze. Like, it's snooze boring. Like, yikes.
Yeah.
I was once told, and these are two separate occasions.
Okay.
As a teenager, I have been told that, did you know that in the Mormon church, they baptize people in mashed potatoes. And having been inside of the baptismal fonts,
instant conversion.
I was like, wish that were the truth. That would be so much more lit.
You got the cheap baptism.
I got like the Kmart Mormons, apparently. Another one I heard was M&M's.
Why? Why do young Mormons want to fill the baptismal font with so many things?
With food, I don't know. That would be so many M&Ms. Those things are huge. They can fit like 13 adults in them. Like, these are like big, like 5-ton all marble and gold.
I thought you were gonna say 13 M&Ms. I was like, whoa.
No. Okay, guys, these baptismal fonts are no joke. These things are like so many gallons of water. They're basically giant holy water basins. They're like little above ground swimming pools. And these things weigh tons. They're made of marble. They're made of gold.
And they're filled with mashed potatoes.
And they are allegedly filled with mashed potatoes and M&Ms. And if that was a real temple ritual, wouldn't be pagan. Would not be pagan.
You would just be signing up for the baptism of the dead every time.
Every single time. And then, because think about it, if that's like the low tier temple ritual for Mormons,
yeah,
what are they doing in the inner sanctum?
I don't know.
Because it's got to be
like filled with caviar or something.
Ew.
I know.
What a decline.
I was thinking expensive.
From like mashed potatoes to caviar? Yikes. I'll stick to baptisms for the dead. Thank you.
What would be an increase for you?
For me, okay, so if I were doing temple work and I had to go in there and it was mashed potatoes and M&Ms.
I want to know what like the S tier, what the
S tier
gold quality.
Okay, so I actually the church does not like for it to be publicized, so I won't say.
Don't tell anybody about the M&Ms, guys.
Yeah, keep that real under wraps. But I can't say exactly the details of the ceremonies because that is sacred and the church does not like that publicized. But I do know the details of those ceremonies. I do know what goes on. I've been in the inner sanctums of temples before.
Sure.
And there is, and this is, you can Google this is well known. There is a room called the Celestial Room. And it is basically a fancy room that is it's the most beautifully decorated room in the whole temple. And you go in and there's a bunch of furniture and you sit and you think about God. But if I'm getting baptized in mashed potatoes and M&Ms, and then I go, through and I have to do all of these other rituals, I think the pinnacle, which is this room, where you meditate on God, would be chili cheese fries.
I knew you were going to say chili cheese fries.
For me, it would be like, because this is like...
I knew you were going to say that.
Your personal reflection of heaven. And for me, that would be chili cheese fries. That's S tier. That would be an S tier ritual food.
Okay.
It would stain everything, because these rooms are like all white and beige and like gold.
It would stink.
What? It would.
Okay.
It would just be French fries. Would be kind of like the upper class.
Yeah. Okay.
If we're gonna do ridiculous rumors of rituals in temple,
mine might be cheese grits.
Ew.
With butter. I'm from the South. How dare you?
Cheese grits with butter.
So good.
Okay, well, now that we've made all of our listeners hungry, you're welcome.
I'm sorry. Okay, well, I think that just about does it this week. If you like what you heard here, tell somebody about it. Go talk about the M&M baptisms that you wish. Let's strike up a discussion with what your ideal baptism would be. Your ideal baptism food.
Right. What's your ideal baptism for the dead food? Not just baptism, period.
You're getting dunked 20 times.
But specifically for the dead. What's your ideal food?
Yeah, strike up those conversations.
Let the debate begin.
Let the debate begin. Also, you could leave us a review on Apple iTunes. That would be pretty cool of you. We got a review this week.
Yes.
Forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. It's Escadry. Thank you for leaving us a review. We really appreciate it.
Escadry. Sounds like a perfume.
So sexy. Yeah, so thank you for leaving us that review. We really do appreciate it, and it helps us out a lot. In other news, next week will be the finale episode. This one was not.
Right.
Next week will be the finale episode of our miniseries. It is not the finale of the show. So next week we'll be discussing science in religion, which is pretty exciting. Biggest taboo of them all. Yeah.
There's going to be so many hot takes.
Yeah, and then we'll be back to our normal episode styles. And we're looking forward to that. We have a lot of big things coming for you guys. So.
Yeah, so stay tuned. And, thank you to everyone who has stayed with us from the beginning. We have heard your suggestions.
I wanted to tell you, Dublin is not our number one city anymore.
Oh, Dublin, you got to step it up.
Dublin has been overcome by Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio, really? Dublin,
Cleveland is feeling us.
Well, you know what? Thank you, Cleveland.
Thank you, Cleveland.
My favorite rock star is from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Stop it. Markiplier's from Cincinnati.
Exactly. Two of our favorite people are from Cincinnati, Ohio, but Cleveland, thank you.
Thank you, Cleveland. You're not as good as Cincinnati, but thanks.
You didn't produce two of our favorite people, but we still love you for listening to us.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Curator Raquel.
And I'm Curator Warbeauty.
And as always, don't forget to
become an oddity.